Hello everybody, I'm Eric Atkinson from Team 1334, and I'm going to be telling you what we've been doing for the beta test this year. So the idea behind the beta test is that each year First loves to throw new things into their control system and also change old things to make them better. So this poses a problem for teams because if all the teams got this new software at kickoff, then nobody would really know how to use it. There might be bugs in there and it would just be a hassle. So what they do is they give out the software to a smaller number of teams beforehand, and then those teams evaluate the software and make sure that there aren't any major problems with it. And so by the time we get to kickoff, the software is already at a more mature state so that there's fewer bugs, it's easier to use, and it's just better overall. So this year in the beta test, we've primarily been focused on C++ software, but there are other teams who are doing Java, LabVIEW, and hardware as well. So we've been primarily focused on the C++ aspect, but we can also give you an overview of some of the other things that beta test teams have been doing. And part of the beta test is that we need to tell you guys what we've been doing so that you have this information for kickoff so that everybody's kind of on the same page in terms of experience with the control system. So a quick outline of some of the major new things this year. There's not too much this year compared to the last 2 years where there's been a lot of new stuff. But there is a new driver station this year. There's new software, and there's also a new netbook that some beta teams have been testing out. So I'll tell you about that. And there's also some new motor safety libraries, and Smart Dashboard is a brand new thing that First has thrown out there. And finally, there have been some developments in the area of the CAN that many FRC teams use. So to start off with, the driver station, as I said, there are beta teams which are testing out a new classmate netbook for the next year. I believe since on the kit of parts sheet it said that veteran teams were not receiving a new classmate. I believe that classmate that they've been testing is for the rookie teams, but generally there's been good feedback about it. They say it's a little bit easier to use, but essentially the same as the one that we received last year. New driver station software has also been released, and one of the major new features is it allows you to select which network interface card you want to use. So if you have multiple Ethernet ports on the computer that you're running the driver station on, it lets you select which port you want to connect your robot with. And it also supports Windows 7 as well as Windows XP, so you can use different operating systems if you so choose. Another interesting development in this area was posted on Bill's blog, actually, so you may have heard of it, is that we aren't required to use the classmate computer at competitions. You are allowed to use other computers. There are going to be some rules inherent with what you can and can't do with your own computer, but we'll find those out at kickoff. The one disadvantage if you do choose to use a computer other than the classmate is that power will be provided for classmate laptops. They'll have an AC adapter available at the competition driver stations. Another new development is they've been working on a motor safety library, and the idea behind this is if you set your motor to drive forward, let's say, and then your program lags or you lose communication for some reason, the motor still is being told to drive forward. And so your robot could keep driving forward and it could damage itself, it could injure somebody. It's not a good situation. So they've been working on a safety mechanism built into the motor libraries themselves, the Jaguar and Victor classes or VIs. And how it works is the motors shut off if they're not constantly being set. So the idea is you have to call set motor continuously, or the motor will have its output cut off to 0. And the idea behind that is if for some reason your program told the motor to turn on and now is not telling it anything, then the motor needs to be stopped because it's possible that something really bad happened with your program, like it's lagging, and you want your robot to not continue going. And there are new functions that go along with this which allow you to set timeout, how long you have in between set calls before your motor gets shut off, and just other functions to access whether the motor is, whether it's been shut off or not, things like that. So, and Smart Dashboard is a brand new tool that they've given beta teams access to, and it's designed primarily as a debug tool which allows you to view numbers from your robot in real time. And the idea behind this is they wanted to have an easy way for your robot to provide feedback on its current status back to classmate or computer or whatever you're using to debug. And so as you can see from, this is a Java code example. Right now the robot side of the library is only available in Java right now, so unfortunately we haven't been able to test it out fully, but this is what it would look like in your Java code if you wanted to send a value to the Smart Dashboard. It's very, very simple. It's just smartdashboard.log, and you send it a number and what you want to call that field, and then it logs it on the screen in front of you in real time. So just an easier way if you want to output motor values or sensor inputs or PID constants or whatever it is that you may need to know from your robot. There's also been some developments in the way of CAN, which if you aren't aware of what CAN is, it's a different way of controlling your robot's Jaguar motor controllers as opposed to the traditional PWM style of controlling. And up until now, CAN has been available for teams, but it's been a separate set of files that you download separately from the rest of WPILib. But now it has been integrated into WPILib, so you don't have to download multiple things, which is kind of nice. And there is support for both the toucan, which is an Ethernet interface that you plug into your camera port, and for the serial port style of using the serial port on the Creo to connect to the Jaguars. So both are supported. Toucan, you have to buy something extra from across the road, electronics, whereas the serial can, you need a cable which you can buy or make. So, but both ways are being supported right now. And one reason why you might want to use CAN is that the Jaguars have spots on them where you are allowed to plug in encoders and limit switches and all kinds of other sensors. And so what CAN allows you to do is to offload, if you want to do a closed loop control, you can offload that processing to the Jaguar. So you would send, instead of sending a message to the Jaguar to tell it to run the motor at such a voltage, you could tell it to run at such a speed. And you would plug an encoder into the Jaguar, and the encoder would provide feedback and would ensure that whatever it was you were turning was turning at that speed. So it's nice because it offloads the processing from the Creo. You could very easily do that by plugging your encoder to the digital sidecar and then doing the processing in your own code. But it's a little bit less of a hassle if it's done on the Jaguar because you don't need to write the code yourself, and it also offloads some of the processing overhead from the Creo. And also, if you want to make your wiring a little more organized, you can just have your Jaguars reading your sensor inputs as opposed to having them on the digital sidecar, the analog breakout. So to summarize some of the major new things this year, new software is definitely in the works. A lot of it is trying to add functionality and flexibility to the existing tools. Motor safety enhancements are very, very big. They will definitely improve the safety of FRC robots. And definitely one thing to keep in mind is that CAN is not one of those things that they tried out and didn't like, so they're getting rid of it. There's definitely a lot of support there by First Robotics. So